and has a typical wingspan between 5 feet 10 inches to 7 feet 6 inches, which converts to 1.8 or 2.3 meters. Like, that's a significant difference between the size of these two creatures.
It's still not as big as the California condor, though.
Oh, you're gonna bring another bird in? I'm not saying it's the biggest bird ever.
I mean,
I'm just saying it's freaking big.
How big does the condor get?
Their wingspans they average 9.8, you who are wondering.
Well, ours is just a little over 10.
10 feet, 2 inches.
I think ours has got the condor beat.
I think this is an average. You're right. Okay, fine.
Pretty
So
close.
it's about the same size as a condor.
Yeah, it's about the same size as
Which
a
are
condor.
huge.
Yeah, which are absolutely big birds. Now, what's really interesting about the specimen that Audubon had is he said that it was a male bird. And when it comes to eagles, the males of the species are the smaller of the two sexes.
Accurate.
Which means that the females would have been even larger.
Most birds, actually.
Yeah, that typically is the way it is in
birddom.
Actually, with like a lot of species.
I'm not going to say I can't think of what the division is, but there is certain animal kingdoms where it is the female is the larger of the two, and there are others where it is the male, and I don't understand why that is. I'm sure that is a huge, long conversation and investigation that I just don't have the brain power for.
Could be sheer randomness too. I mean, hey.
I don't know.
I don't think it's that.
I'm guessing that's not it. Okay, so let's get back to the Washington eagle, because there's a couple of more things that he describes that are unusual. One is that he describes the tarsus of the bird as having uniform scaling, which tarsus is the bones in the feet. He's talking about the skin on the bird's feet. Because if you look at like normal eagles, they've got some really big scales up the front of each toe, and then there's scales all over the foot. Whereas if you look like a songbird, it's got kind of pebbly skin, or like chickens, the skin on their feet almost looks like it has rings to it. So it's a different skin type, and this uniform pattern that he describes doesn't match up with any other eagle that is known.
Does it match up with another type of bird?
I have not seen that description on any bird of prey. Because if you think about it, a bird of prey uses its feet to catch living animals that are likely to thrash and fight back, so it needs some defenses there.
Yeah.
Like in the case
Now,
of this
that
thing,
that doesn't mean that there aren't big birds that have uniformly scaled feet, but I didn't see a whole lot on that in the bird of prey.
Condors have. Sorry, just gonna keep going.
Yeah, I
back
know.
here.
Yeah,
They have that like kind of scaly. I mean, they're scavengers mostly, so they have that kind of scaly type.
the big
More
scales
like-
and the little scales.
More like pebbly, like the songbird birds. Can you? Would you describe that as that's pebbly, right?
I would. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of pebbly.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Just saying.
Yeah,
Just continuing to say
and you're looking at
Kinda
the
leathery.
California condor.
California condor,
Okay.
which are super rare and endangered. Just going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't go playing Audubon and like shooting one.
Really don't do that.
Yeah.
Really don't do that. Anyway, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm
Okay,
just
that's a good example
formulating.
of a bird that would have the kind of feet
Yeah,
that he
but
was
they're
describing.
scavengers. They're not really.
Hunters. They're not birds
They'll
that
eat
hunt
whatever.
fish as a primary source of their food.
Yeah.
Okay. Audubon decides that the Washington eagle is what is known as a sea eagle, which puts it in the genus, God, I hope I get this right as well, Haliaeetus is how I have it phonetically written, so we're going to run with that.
All right, works.
In that family are birds like the bald eagle, there's the white-bellied sea eagle in Australia, the Asian Pallas fish eagle, or the white-tailed eagle in Eurasia. There's 8 species in this family, and the commonality is that they tend to have white plumage on them, but it's not always in the same place because they're literally scattered all over the globe.
And they're generally the same size, these birds?
Roughly.
Yeah.
They're all larger birds.
Large birds of prey. Prey.
Play.
It's definitely not play.
Well-
They're not birds of play.
I mean, they kind of are.
Yeah, they probably play when they're not too busy killing things.
I feel like
I have reached my slaughter quota for the day. Let's play bird Yahtzee.
Yeah.
I mean, riding the what are they called?
Right. Yeah. Right in the yeah.
The plumes of hot air.
Yeah.
Never remember the name
I can't remember
of.
what they called them. Yeah,
You remember what they're called?
Columns?
The thermals.
The thermals.
There you go.
Riding the thermals
Riding
has to be a lot of
thermals.
fun.
Yeah. That would be kind of cool.
That took us a really long
Or
time.
actually, they're just like sitting there, like going up and up, and they're thinking, I'm really getting over. I'm not even flapping with wings.
This is so easy, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what they think.
Okay, so all sea eagles basically the same size.
They're roughly all the same size within a spread. They all, as I said, they all hunt for their food. Primarily, they get it out of the water, so they hunt and feed on fish. Now, if we think about bald eagles in particular, they're semi-scavengers, semi-bully birds. They don't care if they find the fish already dead, or they're also known to chase other birds away. Like osprey will catch a fish, and the bald eagles will harass them so much that they'll leave the fish behind to get away.
I actually saw that happen right out here in Ross Island one time. I saw a couple of bald eagles going after an
They'll do
osprey.
it.
Yeah, they're
jerks.
Yeah.
They kind of
Well,
can be.
osprey are also really good at catching fish.
They are.
They're much better than bald eagles.
Yeah.
So,
They'll also, they're like most birds of prey, they'll also eat mammals, so they are really opportunistic.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a meal to be had and it is easy to get, they will get it.
No.
That is their plan. That is their method.
That's what I hear. It's like, like in places like Alaska where bald eagles are thick, you can't let your cat or your dog out because they'll like carry it away.
I actually had friends who, this was 20 plus years ago, worked in a cannery, and said that the place was just lousy with bald eagles around the cannery. You couldn't get rid of them because they were just scavenging, because we just made it way too easy.
Oh, that's good eats, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was easy. It was easy lunch, easy dinner. Why would you leave?
Oh yeah.
So something that we should note about the description of the eagle from Audubon, and this will go, because I know a lot of people now, Devin, you've got a bunch of people thinking, well, I wonder if it was the California condor he was looking at.
or a condor-like.
Except there's a region thing going on here, because there's California. When Audubon first observed this bird, it was on the North Mississippi, and he was with a trapper who told him that the bird was rare, and it was known to obviously hunt fish, but also to follow hunters to scavenge. But it was mainly known to be in the Great Lakes and kind of the larger northeastern continental United States. On the Mississippi, the Ohio's, to Kentucky, obviously, where Audubon got his specimen from. Like, it lived in that region, which is a much more colder climate than you would find with the California condor.
I mean, I do want to keep in mind we're talking the 19th century, right? Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, right? We
18,
are?
yeah.
Right.
200 some years ago.
200 some years ago. I mean, again, I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going back to the California condor. They found bones of the condor in, like, Florida. They found bones, like, up pretty far north. And, again, that's probably from, like, 500 years ago, not 200.
Mm-hmm.
But
Maybe.
Humans have had a lot to do with the diminishment of ranges of birds.
Many birds. Many creatures.
Almost everything, really. And so I want to continue to frame that we are talking 200 years ago, and that I'm not going to seriously argue it's the California condor because they don't look anything like eagles, but I am going to say that, like, I want to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I got you. Totally. And when we get into theories, which is going to happen shortly, that's when we can have a lot of that discussion.
Yeah,
because that does play into a lot of the theories, which there are not that many theories, but there's a lot of stuff in them.
Yeah.
So let's, there's just a little bit here that I have to go through, and then we'll get into the theories, because so far nothing that I've told people, for the most part, about the Washington eagle really makes it sound much different than the bald eagle, except for maybe some coloring things. Except I haven't told you the whole story. First, Audubon was basically, as I said, the only one to officially record seeing one of these eagles, so that's a problem. Based on his accounts, though, it was unlike its cousins, and it didn't have any white plumage.
Man, it looks like a hawk, really.
Well, you said it was a male.
The one that he shot was a male, yes.
I was just gonna say female bald eagles are brown.
No.
Yeah.
Bald eagles? No. The coloring does not depend on the sex.
Golden eagles.
You may
I
be.
think he might be,
I
yeah.
think of golden eagles.
Yeah, you're thinking of the wrong bird. No. I want everybody to hear what a foul error you made.
Oh, no.
Okay, but so no, so
It
they
does look like a hawk, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of does. But the thing is that it doesn't have any of that white plumage. The third problem, of course, as I said, is there's no surviving specimens because the few that supposedly existed have either been lost, destroyed by time and poor storage, or maybe fires. The fourth problem is, from the description that Audubon gave, other than the size of the bird, it matches up pretty well with a juvenile bald eagle,
before
which
their
Or a
head
golden
turns white.
eagle.
yeah, and we're gonna get into the bald eagle thing because the golden eagle I don't think is the right size. But
Well,
Maybe.
neither is the bald eagle.
lastly, the other thing that you will see in the reading about this is the fact that Audubon did identify several birds, several new species that in fact didn't exist. So he may have possibly occasionally just kind of made it up as he went along. There's a possibility that he may have fudged it a couple of times.
Yeah,
the
there's-
coop?
No, that's not
It
flying
works.
coop. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
And there was that time the locals brought in that thing. It was a weird bird that had like the beaver head and everything, and they were totally punking with April Fools. He put it in the book anyway.
Did he really?
No.
Yeah, Joe's made up
That
the
would've been
jackalope of birds. Essentially,
Yeah,
there's
the
what
bird
he's
of all,
done.
yeah. It would be the bee bird.
Ooh, well done.
Right.
Well played. Okay, so that is all of our story, and we should probably go ahead and get into theories. We should probably fly right into that, but we're going to take a nest for a minute and have a word from our sponsors.
I'll be right back. Today's show is brought to you by Audible. You may have heard of these guys. They just came out. They were actually in response to a lot of complaints from our listeners who were saying that there's a long time to wait between Thursdays for their Thinking Sideways episode. So Audible has been created to fill your needs. They do all kinds of audio content from audiobooks. They're also doing original shows, news, comedy, and all kinds of other cool stuff. They have free apps for the iPhone, iPad, Android, and the Windows Phone, which you can download so you can listen anywhere, no matter where you are. And you own your books, great thing, so you can actually reread them or refer back to them when you want to, unlike a streaming service. And also, if you don't like one of your books, you can swap it for a new one, thanks to their great listen guarantee. Also, I was perusing their catalog. I found a great book that fits in nicely with this week's topic. The book is American Birdwatching for Beginners by Johnny Pale. I'm not sure exactly how that format works, but I'm dying to hear, so somebody let me know. Another great book, Birdman by Mo Hader. This actually is a detective mystery novel, but it's got the word bird in it, so, close enough. They're offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audible.com/thinking-sideways, browse the catalog, and pick yourself a book and start listening. So again, go to audible.com/thinking-sideways. That's audible.com/thinking-sideways and start listening today.
And we're back.
We're gonna get pecking again.
Oh, God. You're kind of
This
like
roost is
corporate,
terrible.
haven't
Okay.
You guys really worked on this. It didn't even occur to me to build up a whole stock of bad bird metaphors.
Yeah.
Well,
You know what
yeah.
I did is I Googled
Bad
bad bird
puns.
puns.
Did you really?
Yeah.
And you actually got results? Bad,
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, dude, yeah.
Kidding? That's what the internet is made of. Is
Yeah,
bad
I am
puns.
full of bad puns, so I didn't need the internet. Okie dokie.
Okay.
So let's get into theories.
Yeah.
We're going to
yeah.
get into theory number one. Theory number one is the Washington Eagle wasn't real.
He just fabricated it.
basically.
Okay.
So here's what it is the reasons that this theory is around is that Audubon wasn't popular with everyone. I mean, he was popular, but he had a lot of critics, and some of those critics were his contemporaries, and some of them are modern day critics. viewed through the lens of time, he's revered as this great man, but that happens to all these people at his time. He was just a regular guy who had foibles in his personality, and some people liked him and some people didn't, and the people who didn't went after him because of that, because he could self-aggrandize and he could sound like he was exaggerating, and that rubbed people the wrong way sometimes.
Well, 19th century flame wars.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they were literal, they're that writing in publication kind of flame war that we see all through history. There's a couple of guys that didn't like him were writing articles in Loudon's Magazine of Natural History, and this is between 1831 and 1835, just slamming him, and in parts, at times, they would later on go to talk about Washington's Eagle. They didn't like him.
This is today known as the iTunes review.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Hello.
So for everybody that's listening to this episode and you want to give us a low iTunes rating,
do it.
Please do so through Loudon's Magazine of Natural History, and iTunes will receive it and log it appropriately.
Agreed.
Yeah, either that, go to whitehouse.gov and just make some threats.
Okay, so those, like I said, they accused him of a lot of things, one of which was they said he was sloppy in his work, that his measurements were bad, and obviously this bird was just a juvenile bald eagle that just happened to be big. Just happened to be a big juvenile.
I mean, that happens.
So it's funny you say that, because the juvenile bald eagle, technically in its wingspan, is larger than the adult by a little bit, and it just happens to be because of the shapes of the long, the long wings on the long feathers on the wings that come around at the tips. They have a slight curve to them that adds just a little bit more, and it makes its wingspan a little bit longer or wider than that of the adult.
But also,
but not significantly, not by a matter of feet.
No, but I mean,
yes.
There are big and small versions of everything. I mean, we see it in humans.
Except they're outliers. They're giants.
There are things that there are always going to be birds that are bigger and birds that are smaller. And yes, it would have been extraordinary for that bird to be that big, but extraordinary things happen. I mean, there are humans that are what?
7 foot something tall.
8 feet tall. What's the tallest human that's ever existed? And then there are humans that are like 3 feet tall. That's a thing.
There's a wide spectrum. You are right, as Joe said, there are outliers, and I cannot dispute that could very well have been it.
Or it could have been that he was exposed to a little pile of radioactive plutonium, and that made him grow bigger, because that's what radiation does.
Eagle Man.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's why he was called Washington's Eagle, because that's a pretty good superhero name.
Because he had the ruffled front of his shirt instead of feathers. Yeah, no, this is not happening. So basically, we're talking about the fact that this bird could have been an outlier, and they say that maybe it wasn't an outlier. Actually, what they say is that he did bad measurements and that he padded things so that it looked more impressive when it was in his book.
Well,
which plenty of people have done that. I mean, there are so many examples of people making stuff up and writing it in a book and then being called out later on and people finding out, oh, that didn't happen. This isn't actually the memoir of so-and-so. You made all that stuff up.
See Oprah. Not Oprah, but the person that was on Oprah. It's fine.
One of them, yes. For a second, let's go back to the bald eagle, and specifically I want to talk about the juvenile bald eagle, because that's what his critics are all saying. It obviously was a juvenile bald eagle.
Or JBE.
Or a JBE. So if you don't know, let me describe the juvenile versus the adult bald eagle, not in size, but in appearance. So the adults have the white plumage on their head, and they have a yellow beak, and they have yellow feet. The juveniles are brown, so their head is brown, their beak is blackish blue or dark colored, and their feet are dark colored. They're dark brownish black, As they progress to maturity, they gain more of the white in their head until it's full. The yellow, because a bird's beak, it's like your fingernail, it grows out. Birds' beaks are constantly growing.
Yeah.
The yellow, as they mature, appears and then makes its way through the entire beak until it's continuously yellow. And with their feet, the scales change and molt over time, and then the yellow comes in and they're not dark. The rest of their body is typically brown, but they have white feathers randomly scattered about. It's referred to as a speckled pattern, and depending